Hello everyone, I'm the Wind. I've just blown in. And today we are back with more Seduce Me 2, The Demon Wars. Last time, we were continuing down the third of Erik's paths, trying to get that happily ever after with our prince. We started training with Shadow. We may or may not have molested Diana. And then the next day we kind of spied on her and our mentor figure, arguing a lot about a flower. Good times. And now we're going to begin today's lesson. Yay! Yay, education. I nodded, prepared to face whatever he had in store for me. What took me off guard was someone coming up suddenly behind me and placing a knife at my throat. What? Hi, kitty girl!
Dead.
True. Very, very true. And my teacher's expression of, oh god damn it, I have so much work with her, kinda says volumes. I froze. What did she mean? Shadow crossed his arms, raising an eyebrow.
Shama, a little too early.
Exactly, dear. As the person released me and moved the knife away from my throat, I turned with a hard glare to see the cloaked woman who had been talking to Diana before. She obediently looked to Shadow.
I apologize, sir.
Yeah, he does tell me as he'd want obedience.
Back to your place.
Aww, they're hanging with the kitty girl. Shama bowed and quickly formed herself into Shadow, fading into the ground. I instinctively began to follow suit, but Shadow cleared his throat.
Pay no mind to that.
But are we gonna fight? No! You can't just say that! What was that? Agreed. What the fuck, Teach? WTF here. I had a knife held to my throat without any warning. To be fair, there is a war on. Should this really surprise me? I've been kidnapped by frickin' devils last game. As well as had Diana hijack my friends in my school. I mean, come on, think about it for a few minutes. I was not prepared, and, while that may have been some messed up point about war and not being prepared, Shadow was watching and could have stopped it. Yeah, but Shadow dawns on me as he is more the type of experience as the greatest teacher, not me. Also, get your act together. I am not a babysitter. The only thing that ran through my mind was how my body suddenly became filled with adrenaline. Shadow stared blankly at the question and at me.
A misfired trap. Shama is meant to surprise attack you after I teach you your next lesson.
Ah!
Obviously there was a miscalculation, but
Okay.
that'll be fixed and done properly after the lesson is given.
Okie dokie. Although, is that really a surprise if I know what's coming now at the end of the lesson? I understood, wanting to be ready the next time it happened, but something caught my attention, drawing my focus away from his words. As I stared at Shadow, I faintly noticed his hair swaying slightly in the air on his head. What the? There was no wind in the room. Come on, we gave Diana a horn job yesterday. We should remember this. How was it moving? How indeed. I focused my attention on his hair, wondering what it was doing as Shadow raised an eyebrow at me.
What are you staring at?
Your luscious, luscious locks, sir. I want to play with them. I shook my head and avoided it. Why was I so focused on his hair? It was hair. I mean, look at it. It is so luscious and long and pretty. I think he actually has nicer hair than my character. As I thought that, however, his ponytail suddenly began to move, like a hand tapping its fingers on Shadow's shoulder and on his waist. Whoa! I jumped back, pointing at his hair and earning a smug smile from Shadow. Why is your hair doing that? Gee, why do you think? As Shadow suddenly glared at me, I tensed up.
Are you more interested in the hair or in your training?
You said it can't be both. I kept my mouth shut. I wasn't going to get anywhere by getting distracted. Just like with my curiosity of Diana. If this was another lesson, then Shadow was teaching me properly. Still, my curiosity pecked wildly at me, wanting me to desperately ask about it. Give in! Ask! Clearly this is a face that wants to tell me things. Achievement unlocked. Controlling fear. Shadow raised an eyebrow. I was fearful that he was going to dismiss me afterwards, but I desperately needed to know about the hair. It was just too interesting to ignore now. The ends of Shadow's hair gently moved up in the air, waving their fingers at me like they were dancing over piano keys.
Let me ask you this, human. What would you be willing to trade your soul for?
Nothing. I kind of like it where it is, and that you assume I think I have one. My soul? Don't you mean my voice? Just saying. Follow my thread trail here. I stared at Shadow, slightly dumbfounded. He traded his soul for his hair? I mean, it is super pretty, but... Huh. Now that my focus was on it, the strands of his hair were pitch black. Not even light could pierce them or highlight the strands. How was that possible? Yeah, because whoever colored this, it does look like there's light penetrating that hair and shining. Sorry about that, but it's true. Shadow lifted a hand up and ran his fingers over his front ponytail, combing through the darkness.
For me, the answer was simple. To control fear.
Ah, cool. I want to keep my soul, by the way, right? That made absolutely no sense. Yes, it kind of does. I'm back to being the slowest runner in the class, aren't I? How does your hair make you control fear? I mean, have you ever had a really good haircut? You feel freaking invincible. Until it grows out into that weird, awkward phase where it's not quite long enough to do anything with, but it's not quite as cute as it once was. Shadow gazed into my eyes before sighing and lowering his hand. However, as he did, his own shadow slowly rose up behind him, as if it were a being itself, and stood silently. Which would be nice to see. The shadow's hair, however, danced around him, revealing not 2, but at least 10 hands playing from his head, waving through the air in snake-like movements. I felt frightened just staring. The shadow quickly detached itself from its master and began to sprint around the room, taking out every light source and completely covering the room in darkness. What the? It was pitch black in the room. Not even the light of the hallway could be seen. I couldn't spot Shadow or his shadow anywhere, causing me to stand still in utter fear. As hands began to crawl along my body. Hey, I have a fiancé, sir. Back off. No means no. Bad touch. Consent's important, yo. And wrap around my arms and torso. I screamed and began to flail, feeling them completely coil around me like snakes. Soon I was trapped in a tight embrace of Shadow.
To completely control darkness is to control fear. To control fear is to control life itself. It isn't enough to simply hold that much power in 2 hands.
I don't know about that. I get it! Let me go, please! I was frightened to the core. I didn't want to be in this anymore. I was excited about learning about dark magic, but this had quickly become a power I was fearful of. At last, the lights reappeared in the room and Shadow stood before me, arms crossed with a small smirk on his face. He had 2 ponytails settled onto his body, resting from where they had done. As I no longer felt tied up, I shook out my arms and wrapped them around myself, trying to calm down.
Are there any more questions you intend to waste my time with?
How the fuck did you do that, sir? That was cool. Scary, but cool. I became fearful of this man. He was my trainer, but at the same time, he wasn't afraid to make me fear him. I've had this kind of co-worker slash teacher slash boss person in my life, they suck. It may have just been darkness, but what if he pulled a knife on me, or like Shauna did? I don't think he wants us dead at this point. I would have been killed in the cover of darkness without any way to fight back. I shook my head, letting out a shaky breath. No, sir. I had to pay attention. No more distractions. I had to focus on the task ahead, or else I would open myself up for another unpleasant surprise. Sorry, I'll pay attention. Shadow nodded, rolling his shoulders and forming a pure black dagger in his hand. As he looked to me, I understood what he wanted me to do. Having watched his hand carefully, he was not one to actually talk me through anything. And that's why also, this would not be a good teacher for me. I sometimes literally need it explained, or I need it in written form so I can read it several times. Visual learning does not necessarily always work best for me. I focused on my hand, trying to imagine a dagger forming within it. I rounded my hand to form a shadow across my palm, knowing that I needed the darkness to help give it a shape. Slowly, but eventually, the hilt of a dagger formed in my hand, allowing me to grasp it. Yay, I learned Shadow Blade! But will I learn Shadow Punch? The blade quickly jetted out of the end, finally completing its formation, before I lowered it to my side and looked up at Shadow.
Become aware of your surroundings. Your opponent is using the shadow plane, so you're at a disadvantage. But you can still defend yourself, as long as you pay attention.
Okay. That was why my attention was so important. I mentally wanted to slap myself for letting my curiosity take hold of me. Now was not the time to mope, however. I had to focus. Okay, I got this. I nodded before looking around, trying to figure out how I was going to find Shama and defend myself before she got me and killed me again. I wasn't sure how shadows got around in the other plane, but I was going to find out. I looked to the ground, not seeing anything pass by me, then looked to the light sources. If I remembered anything from the day before, it was that you needed to control the light to distract your target or protect your shadow from being used. I held my breath, trying to focus on the lights versus hearing my breathing whisper through the room. I wasn't going to let her take advantage of me. A trainer, on the other hand, though. Suddenly, I faintly hear a flame whip to the side, causing me to turn and see Shama rushing at me with her knife. I quickly parried, pushing her back.
Good. Again.
Cool. I did K. As quickly as she had come, Shama vanished once again to hide. I could tell I was going to get a workout. Soon enough, she began to attack in plain sight, turn the room dark, even use my shadow against me. I had to maneuver around it all. I continued to fend off her attacks for the entire day, until I was excused to my room for the night. Oh, so tired. Yay, but the skip button's back. Hey, sweetie. You know what? We both had a hard day of trading, and I'm going to give you my energy somehow. And we've seen this, and skip button's back. Yay. And you know what? Dude, kiss me. Let us have fun times, shall we? And we've seen this. There's sexy music. Welcome back. And fun was had by all. Until the next day, when I'm getting prepared, and for some reason, the Demon Lord walks into my room. And you know what? I'm gonna calm down, because I don't think this is my father-in-law. And we've seen this, and it's Erik, and it's the spirit, because spirit's fucking with us again. And yeah, not good times. Hi, teacher. What's the lesson? The minute I stepped into the library, Shadow turned from his scrolls to look at me. That was a first. Was he going to grade me properly now? I have a feeling he's teaching us something. His raised eyebrow threw me off, though. as if he wasn't expecting me. I walked into the center of the space, summoning my dark dagger and becoming mentally ready for more reactionary defense training. However, Shadow raised his hand to me, caused me to relax a bit.
Your training is over.
Really? Okay. This is Colonel Sanders' dating sim levels of education, but okay. Wait, what? What did he mean? I opened my mouth to protest, but Shadow held his stern gaze.
I have taught you how to defend yourself, and how to traverse a plane that renders you temporarily untouchable. That was all I was required to teach. You are free to train on your own without a mentor now.
Aw, but I like hanging out with you. And your lush hair. That after the last class, I actually now see it does look like a hand. I actually never noticed that before. I felt like I was tossed into the deep end of a lake. I wasn't told anything about losing my trainer at any point. Still, I knew what he was saying was the truth. He is also a very busy man who has a spy network to run, you know. He was right. I wasn't expected to learn how to really fight, or how to beat someone. All this training was for was to give me the ability to defend myself. I'd completely forgotten about the reason I had even started. Yeah, I can see why, though, and it is a super friggin' cool power. Still, I wanted to learn more. I felt that I was losing a golden opportunity, and I wanted to push forward to learn something extraordinary. It was one thing to duck and dodge an invisible opponent, but it was another to truly use dark magic. Aw, but I want to be a white mage. I much more prefer healing classes, personally. Shadow turned away and went back to the table.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I must return to my research.
Aww.
We have a siege in less than 3 days, and I can't waste any more time.
True. On some level. That hurt a bit. I was wasting his time. Well, this really wasn't his idea. This was Diana's doing. I felt some part of me yell that I had wasted my own time. Why was I even here? Girl, you learned cool fucking shadow magic. Shut up and say thank you. Leave. You know what, dude? Teach me something else. Let's hang. Shadow looked over his shoulder, locking eyes with me. However, he didn't say anything. I could feel his gaze burn into my eyes, judging my words and my desire to learn. Hey, I'm a very good student, sir. I wanted to know something else. I didn't want my training here to end with me going off on my own. I had only trained for 2 days, for God's sakes. I wanted more. Shadow slowly straightened and turned to face me, crossing his arms.
Very well. I would like to see if you are able to perform a rather difficult spell.
Ew, cool. Yay. I suddenly became confused. Was it truly something powerful? I thought of 100 things he was going to teach me, but I remained at attention, listening.
The spell I'm about to teach you will become your best weapon in battle.
Ew.
However, it takes a large portion of energy.
Cool.
You may not even stay conscious after casting it.
Aw.
Are you prepared to try?
Good question, sir. I took a moment to consider it. Well, it seemed powerful. Something about it seemed off. I could possibly pass out? Well, if you drain all your stamina, yeah. Why would I essentially be jumping levels so fast? Was this something I should be afraid of? Maybe a little, but... You know, if we're gonna deep dive down this tree and get our best power first, I'm down for this. Yes, teach me. I wanted to know. I wanted to experience something new. And if this power was going to be, as he said, my greatest weapon, then I had nothing to lose. It would be worth the attempt. Shadow stared at me for a moment, most likely judging me like he usually did. Judgy man. Before nodding and pointing to the wall away from the fireplace.
There.
You want me to redecorate? You want me to do some feng shui? I looked over and became lost. I saw my own shadow, simply lying against the wall and flickering slightly in the firelight. What was he wanting me to do with it? Before my eyes, my trainer's own shadow crawled up the wall beside mine and began to peel itself off of the wall. I could not believe what I was seeing. It was almost cartoon-like, and I wish we could see this cartoon-like thing. Soon enough, his shadow was standing on its own in midair, away from the wall. Interesting. Sounds cool. He was teaching me how to use my shadow? I closed my eyes, trying to focus and concentrate, before looking to my shadow and attempting to will it off of the wall. It wouldn't move, much to my displeasure, causing me to focus harder. It had to come off of the wall somehow. My shadow began to quake and almost shudder against the wall in defiance, making me glare hard at it. Come on. It shook violently before finally starting to push itself off of the wall into a full three-dimensional being. I stared as it settled onto its feet and stood at attention for me, as if it were awaiting my orders. Yay! I learned Shadow Summon! This was by far one of the coolest things I had done. And would be great if, we got to see it. I felt my energy pulse, draining slowly to maintain the spell. Took a breath. Shadow, however, clapped his hands a couple of times.
Well done, human.
Yay! Teacher's approval. I grinned back at him before watching him form a dark sword in his hand and pass it to his shadow with a look of confusion. At his silence, I tried to mirror him, forming a shadow blade in my hand the same way I had formed my dagger, and passing it to my shadow. I've played enough video games. I know the shadow battle is usually fairly hard and not fun. For some reason, staring at my shadow holding a sword seemed off to me. But maybe that was because I was a human casting this magic for the first time. There were always times for first, after all, especially with Erik. And this was definitely an impactful first. Shadow lifted his hand and pointed towards the door. Obeying the silent command, the shadow walked over to the door and stood guard. How did it know to do that without being told? Of course, Shadow wasn't going to tell me. I looked at my shadow and tried to think of what I could have it do. There were so many things. It was hard to decide. Gazing around the room, there were many places it could go. However, I became curious about the upper level of the library. I pointed into the air at the upper balcony, feeling the need to verbalize my demand echo through my body. Go. Within a blink, my shadow crouched and leapt off of the ground, almost flying through the air and grabbing onto the railing of the upper floor. Wow, my shadow's a friggin' ninja. I stared, jaw dropped. I wish we could see this, as it vaulted itself over the ledge and turned back to face me. Whoa. Whoa indeed. I looked to Shadow, seeing him give me a mildly impressed smirk towards my shadow.
I'm rather shocked.
Me too!
It's a shame to think that you're merely a human. You'd make a fine assassin.
Well, maybe once this whole war thing is over, depending on where Erik and I honeymoon, we could come back someday, maybe. There was a genuine compliment. I was a little surprised to hear him say that without some kind of insult tacked on. But I quickly shook it off. If I had learned anything from this experience, it was to not let my guard down. Luckily, I didn't. I smirked as I noticed Shadow's own entity try and creep up on my shadow. In reply, I quickly shouted, "Defend!" My shadow acknowledged my command and, as if it knew where its enemy was, it turned and braced itself as my trainer's shadow tried to slice through it. Both swords clashed, causing a splash of dark matter to erupt from the impact. Ah! Power Rangers logic. Cool. But as soon as it happened, Shadow dispelled his entity with a smirk of his own.
Well done. Very well done.
Yay! I impressed teacher. And his creepy hand hair that I can't unsee now. I grinned from ear to ear, my shadow disappearing on its own. However, Shadow raised an eyebrow.
Your practice is not over. Again.
Yes, sir. I felt another smirk grace my lips. Finally. I trained through the day, stopping every now and then when my energy was low, and refueling with food and a break. I was happy to have this new ability, but he hadn't been kidding. It definitely wore me out. So sleepy. Yay, my bedroom. Sleepy time. And the spirit, god darn it, spirit, I just want a nap. What are we on about now?
If you need any extra power, let me know. I can keep nasty people away, just like last time.
Yeah, but Eric's not a, well, I mean, he is a nasty person, but he's my nasty person. And you know what? You're still a kid, but you'll get hurt. And Spirit showed me a vision, and you know what, Spirit? I am not having it. I am defending my man and his honor. Erik is so not his daddy. And now Eric's here, and it's the next day, and we're doing our ritual to get the spirit out of me, hopefully. And you know what? I'm just going to go comfort my guy, because he needs it. He is going to be my anchor in this. And I'd like to think I can be his anchor, even if it is just a little. And we see in this, skippity skip skip, and we're with the spirit. And it's time to talk to it again in my head. Because, yeah, it kind of points out, the evil man will hurt you, but you know what? We're going to go kill the evil man. You know, we're the good guys and girls. Spirit doesn't believe me, shows me a vision of the real world. And now we're back fighting the spirit, because Eric's here, and this is all kind of bullshit. Attack. And the fight is on. And hopefully I don't die this time. Yay, I didn't die this time, and... yay! Everything went well. Only on my way back to the room, I kind of stumbled onto a meeting, and... yeah, they're not happy with me.
Sir, I found your student eavesdropping.
Shama, you snitch, you.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm not either, to be truthful. You said I could be a good assassin. I grimaced. Now out in the open, the Force stared at me with cold eyes, as if they were ready to send me back to the human world as a corpse rather than going through with the siege. And we've had this, because this is not our first time here. Or is it? And they're asking me, you know, is Diana a good leader? She going cuckoo nutters?
What was the last thing you heard?
Fair question, Rabbit. Something about it being for the better? Question mark? And they're discussing this, and really what is better.
Who are you to question our reasons?
The main character? Shadow stepped up to me and leaned close to my face. Can I shake hands with your hair? I bet that's fun. As I stared into his black eyes, I could feel the world around me grow darker. He was truly a scary being, and his cold tone made me that much more afraid of him. But I mean, look at him, he's so pretty. He's prettier than my character.
You're a human. You have no say in what we do here in this world.
You know what? Fair enough, sir. I just want to go home and marry my incubus. But...
we are not asking for your permission.
okay. My anger suddenly exploded. I was pulled into the room and being treated like dirt. To be fair, I was eavesdropping. I didn't appreciate it one bit, so I straightened up and got in Shadow's face. Whoa, I remember I had lady balls today, I guess. I'm not asking for yours either. I just want to know. Shadow and I continued to glare at each other before Shadow scoffed and turned away, crossing his arms. But does he cross his hair arms? And we've seen this, and they're standing their ground, because, yeah, I get it, I'm an interloper here. And where do I stand? I stand with Diana. She is the queen of this rebellion. She has lost a lot. At the same time, she is the one that took charge and led. And we're back to skipping. And it's our last night before the big battle. And you know what? If this is, the last night before the siege begins, I'm gonna have sexy times with my husband. Because why not? Because it might literally be our last time, as the last 2 playthroughs taught me. I needed to hold him and treat the night like it was our last. Tomorrow was unpredictable, but tonight was guaranteed. Aww. Pretty art. I ran my hands over his vest and looked up into Erik's eyes. See his meet mine in a loving gaze. He seemed to understand, silently, exactly what I wanted as he gently leaned in and kissed me. My eyes naturally closed, feeling the warmth of his embrace completely engulf me and draw me into a state of peace and comfort. The world around us vanished as I became lost in his arms. My fingers danced over each button of his shirt and released them as our kiss slowly deepened, revealing his bare chest and letting me feel the heat of his skin beneath my fingertips. His touches were gentle, sweet over my own clothes. The mutual need between us was as fluffy as a fairy tale, and, with nothing to hold me back anymore, we would drift into a blissful euphoria in each other's arms before the battle for my freedom began. Aww. It was moments like this where I felt Erik's unwavering devotion to make me feel pampered, pleasured, and all around blessed with his touches, his kiss, his breath against my skin. Still, his intricate hold on me only escalated as the clothes between us were tossed away from us, leaving us bare and leaving me in a wanton state of mind in his hands. I was perfect putty for him to meld, and every caress over my skin was paradise. My body drowned in ecstasy as his fingers massaged over my skin, his kisses over my shoulder shooting little jots of pleasure through my spine, as our voices drifted to soft sighs and moans. I was his princess. Damn right. And he was going to serve me every bit of his love. Aww. Hugging me to him from behind and ravishing me as if he knew exactly what I wished to feel. He was just that intuitive to my feelings. Aww. Good boyfriend. That part of him was one of many reasons why I loved him. Even as his touches became more heated and his grip on me tightened, I could only release moan upon blissful cries within his love. His fingers became laced in one of his hands and his other explored every sweet spot on my body. The ride became a misty haze of pleasure, my fingers on my free hand bearing into his copper hair, as his hold over my waist guided our lovemaking. The grip we had on our entwined hands tightened with each pulse of pleasure that rushed through us. Our names became a repeatable chant, echoing through the room, as the air became filled with heat and the bittersweet smell of sweat. Any other sound between us became carnal and wordless. We knew exactly what to do and how to drive each other to our joint pinnacle of pleasure. Exactly why monogamy is awesome. As we peeked over it, the loud cries we released became the sweetest thing I had ever heard, bearing itself into my memory. The afterglow was just as perfect, Erik's arms around my waist and his loving kisses over my cheek and neck. I love you. I'll always love you. Erik smiled and nuzzled me before pulling me against his body, giving me his chest as a pillow to rest on. I gladly took it, nuzzling him and listening to the sound of his beautiful heartbeat pounding in his chest. His heartbeat pounded for me, and he also pounded me, so yeah. I could hear the love beat in each pulse, and it made a smile dance over my skin. I became confident, filled with determination. Oh, I'm filled with determination? Really? Are we gonna go butterscotch pie next? Ready for the day to follow. Tomorrow would decide everything. Until next, tak likatsilak hedo.